Rainy weather was the perfect time to read. At least, that's what Wyan thought. The lights of a lamp and a crackling fire in the fireplace illuminated her figure, lounging comfortably on a couch as she flipped through the pages of a book. It was her favorite activity, especially during lazy weather such as rain. Settling down and getting cozy under a fluffy blanket with a cup of warm chamomile tea and a good book. The house was nearly quiet once again, with the gentle sound of rain against the window panes and the comforting sound of the fireplace being the only disturbances. The warmth of her environment made Wyan sleepy. Her eyelids drooped as she fought the inevitable slumber, wanting to continue reading, but as the book slowly slipped from her fingertips, falling to the ground with a thud, there was a loud clap of thunder, and the light of the lamp shut off. Wyan's eyes shot open, her comfortable atmosphere shattered. The only source of light in the room was the fire which continued to burn. Wyan knew she couldn't read well in that dim of a light, and she would become too warm if she sat directly in front of the fireplace. With a sigh, she curled up in her blanket and tried to adjust her eyes so she could continue reading. The storm would likely stick around for a while, and whatever caused the power outage would take time to fix, so she might as well get comfortable. The sound of 3 taps echoed through the house, and Wyan looked around, trying to locate the source of the sound.
Reading in this light is bad for your eyesight, you know.
Wyan quickly looked toward the voice, and her heart skipped a beat at the sight of the figure standing in the entryway. Darkiplier, her boyfriend of 2 years, was dressed in a fitted black suit and a black turtleneck sweater. He leaned comfortably in the doorway, a small smile on his handsome face. It wasn't his typical style, but it was nice to see him switch up his usual formal attire. However, as she continued to look at him in the dimmed room, something about him seemed off. Darkiplier's usual red and blue outline was almost invisible, making him look more human than usual. In the firelight, small bits of it flashed into view, but disappeared again just as quickly as it appeared. His entire being just seemed to fit the mood. "What are you doing here? Not that I'm unhappy with your visit, but it's a little random." He walked over to Wyan, smiling as he placed a bottle of wine on a side table.
"The lights went out, and I assumed you'd like some company. I know that nighttime thunderstorms can be a bit unsettling."
Wyan smiled and blushed at his comment. "Well then, would you like to join me?" She opened her blanket to let him in, but he just smiled.
"In a minute, darling. Let me prepare something for us."
He winked and wandered off into the kitchen. Wyan left the couch, and from a closet nearby, she took out a box of small, unscented candles and laid them around the room, lighting them shortly after. The light sounds of footsteps returned, and Wyan turned around, spotting Dark with 2 nice glasses, pouring the expensive red wine into them. She returned to the couch, and he smiled at her, his 3D effect more visible due to the candles. Dark joined her a few seconds later as thunder clapped again. It was nice, just the 2 of them sitting together. Dark had summoned a record player, and it softly played music as they drank the wine he had bought. The mood of the room just seemed to change for the better. Wyan was beyond happy.
"Just out of curiosity, what's with the candles, darling? Were you really having that much trouble seeing my pretty face?"
Wyan giggled, bringing her hand up and caressing his jaw. "You don't have to hide any part of yourself from me, you know." Dark leaned closer, resulting in an Eskimo kiss, and he smiled.
"I thought that my outline would irritate you, especially being this close to me."
She smiled back, kissing his cheek. "You can never irritate me." As she finished speaking, a new song began to play, and Dark placed his glass down while standing up from the couch.
"Dance with me?"
He held his hand out, and Wyan took it. Her hand was soft and warm, something that Dark found pleasant. He brought Wyan close to his chest and placed his hands on her hips. Her arms snaked behind his neck, and the 2 of them swayed to the music. Wyan rested her head on his broad chest. He smelled vaguely of expensive cologne and black coffee. It was an odd mixture, but it was comforting. As they danced, Dark hummed softly, matching the song note for note. "How do you know this song? It's quite old." Dark looked down at her with a sad smile.
"It was quite beautiful back when it was first played. I wish you had been there with me."
It dawned upon Wyan just how old Dark really was, but it didn't bother her. "If I had been, I wouldn't be dancing here with you." Dark smiled, leaning forward and resting his forehead against hers.
"That's true. I'm glad we at least get to enjoy it now."
Wyan leaned forward and kissed his soft lips gently as rain pattered against the window and firelight danced across their figures. "So am I."